Welcome to Legalese. My name is Christopher Lilly. I'm your host. Legalese is a presentation of the Northern Middlesex Bar Association. Today I am joined by Stacy DeVoe. Stacy is our newest probation officer in the Air District Court. And Stacy has actually spearheaded a new program through probation. And the title of this segment is The Programs of Probation. Stacy, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Stacy, you've been with the Air District Court for a couple of years now.
Yes, it's coming up on 2.
Tell me why did you enter into the probation department?
So it was probably about my sophomore year of high school, so a little while ago. I had this one teacher who taught American legal system, and we saw the documentary on the West Memphis 3 and about the injustice that happened to the 3 boys in West Memphis, Arkansas, that were wrongfully accused of murder due to having beliefs they thought of satanic cults because they listened to Metallica. And I just felt like there was some type of injustice in the criminal justice system, and I really wanted to become a defense attorney. It was at that time that I went through Concord District Court to get an internship, and I found out that they only do internships through the DA's office if you're in law school. So they said, why don't you go through probation? And when I stepped foot in there and I met the probation officers and I saw the work that they were doing, I thought that this was an avenue that I wanted to go down. Wow.
How long were you an intern?
So I interned there for a little over each summer that I was attending college, and then once I graduated college and I was applying for jobs, I interned for just about a year. And then I got a full-time job with the trial court community service program that I did for about 3 years before I became a probation officer.
And now you're one of our rising stars in the Air District Court.
And now I'm here.
Yes, now you're here. Probation. Probation actually has its roots in Massachusetts. In checking the internet, John Augustus is the father of probation. He came from Woburn, Massachusetts, and provided the basis by which the current system of probation currently exists. And at its roots, it was introduced as an alternative to incarceration, but probation has become so much more than that. It's introduced a number of programs that are designed to help out the probationer, and that's what we're focusing on here. And Stacy, you are spearheading a program yourself that deals with motherhood.
Yes.
And the title of that is the Motherhood Program.
Yes.
And you're doing that through the Air District Court.
So I decided to do it in conjunction with Concord District Court. In the past, Air District Court and Concord District Court have paired up in drug courts. We're both smaller courts but cover a large capacity of area within further western Middlesex County, where there's not many resources as if there is in a Lawrence, a Lowell, a Fitchburg area. So we wanted to combine our resources together and make one group that we felt like was lacking out here for resources for mothers.
And so this program that you've established, what does it provide for? What is it addressing?
So what it is it's a motherhood program. So what it is it's 12 weeks that we complete, and we were doing it on Tuesday nights, and it would go from sometimes 5 or 5:30 to 7 o'clock at Advocates, which is right down the street from Air District Court in Harvard, Mass. And each week we would discuss a new topic, whether it was for the mothers themselves, how to better themselves, how to handle anger, how to, with their aggression, or even how to just show a child affection. One of the problems that people, I feel like, really overlook, especially, is parents within the criminal justice system. Most of the time it's a vicious cycle where they didn't have either a mother or a father in their life, so they didn't learn the proper affection skills of how to receive that affection, how to give that affection to their child. So we're trying to teach them what some people may see as fundamental and should just be secondhand nature, that these people have never learned in their lives. So it's to better themselves as well as their families and their children.
Now, was this something that you had perceived was missing in our area that really needed to be addressed?
Yeah, so I actually have some friends that I met through work who are doing the motherhood program out in Lowell, and I was just talking to them one day, and I asked them about it, and they were telling me that they would get people who are from family and probate because a judge is stating, okay, you want custody of your child, well, prove to me that you have the skills to have your child back, go do a motherhood program. And some of these mothers are traveling from Marlboro, some of them are traveling from Air all the way out to Lowell. And I said, wow, when you really think about it, there aren't these programs in this area where there aren't transportation for a train for you to get from Air to Lowell or Marlboro to Lowell. And I thought that just based upon my caseload, I had four or five mothers that I saw that could have really benefited from a program like this.
Now, probation is typically something that springs out of the criminal court, the criminal aspect of the district court. But you're mentioning probate court. To what extent how is it that probate is now part of what you're dealing with?
So it's not just probate, it could be superior, it could be juvenile court, and it could be even DCF that could refer people to our motherhood program. So it's one of those things where judges as well as probation officers or DCF workers are noticing that there are mothers either struggling. They want to love their child, but they may not know how to love their child, or they're dealing with this anger and they're taking it on their child, but they don't know how to divert it, on how to suppress their anger or actually handle it without becoming violent. So it's really become over the last, I would say, 5 or 6 years when motherhood programs have really started out that, and the spread of, when people have just spread the word, like word of mouth, more judges are really seeing it as a great program for people that can benefit not just the mother but also the child. And the end result is hoping that the child doesn't just get into the cycle of the criminal justice system just because that's the way that's the life that they've known.
How long a program is it?
So it's a 12-week program, so it's 12 weeks. The first week is usually going over the contract, so our contract usually states you know, be on time, be respectful to the presenters, be respectful to other people and their input in the group. You're only allowed to usually have one absence with good cause for missing it because it is only a 12-week course. You're not allowed to come to the program under the influence of any drugs or alcohol, and if you are, you're subject to being randomly tested, and if you are, you could be seeking a violation or be kicked out of the program.
And this is all spelled out in your contract that you have them sign at the beginning?
That we actually have them sign it before they even get to the class. So we normally have them come in for a meeting beforehand, and we go over the contract and a questionnaire because we feel as if they're not serious about meeting you the first time, that they're not going to come, and there's not enough spots to be able to sometimes take everyone, so we want to make sure that we give spots to those parents and mothers who are wanting this to change their lives for themselves and their families.
How long has the program been implemented?
So we just started it in Air back in March, and we had our first graduation in June. And we're hoping in September to start it again, but we're not sure if because we're just still ramping it up that we won't start again until January, but we're looking to at least run it once a year. I know Lowell has been doing it for the last 3 years. I believe Cambridge has been the last 8, and I think in Norfolk County has been about 8 years as well that theirs has been running.
Oh, wow. And in these other counties, they have a good success rate, good graduation rate?
Yes, so I think it's about, for the most part, I think from what I've seen and graduations that I've gone to, it's usually about 90 to 95% of people graduate. Even if you get some people in the beginning that are really reluctant, you see them grow and you see the change. And sometimes it's really great too because you can get some parents that are new parents where they might be young, 18, 19 years old, and then you may have a parent that is 40, 50 years old, and you just see the way that they look up to them, and it shapes them as a person too. So you see them grow not just based on the information you give them, but just based on their pro-social peers that they're having in the class.
Now, the 95% success rate is very, very high. I imagine that eclipses a lot of other probation programs.
So one of the things about the motherhood program is that many judges don't, unless it's really probate and family, there aren't a lot of judges that force it.
Okay.
So there'll be a lot of times when there's just a flyer in the courthouse. And I know Lowell District Court will do this, and Judge Guzman, our presiding judge, is actually in favor of it as well, is that if you do this course, she will waive 6 months of your probation supervision fee. So it's almost, it's kind of, well, they're the ones that are deciding to do it, and they're getting something in return helping them with their probation due to a lot of people, stressor, number one stressor for a lot of people on probation, and even people who aren't on probation, is money. So coming up with a $65 probation supervision fee per month can be a lot, especially if you have young children and you're trying to maintain, or you're a single parent trying to take care of your children. That's good positive reinforcement for them to want to take the class. And even if they think in the beginning that, oh, I'm not going to get anything out of it, I just want the 6 months of probation supervision fee waived. I've heard many women say, I never thought that I would have gotten as much out of this as I did.
Now, it's a 12-week program. Is it once a week that you meet?
Yes.
And for how long during the course of the week?
So it's about 2 hours, and I would say out of the 12 weeks, I think we have 10 guest speakers. So we would have someone from different aspects of whatever the topic may be come in. So I know we talked about the Certified Intimate Partners Abuse Education class, about how to handle anger and what technically is abuse. A lot of people don't realize that verbal abuse, emotional abuse, it's not just physical abuse. And especially in the motherhood group, we talk about how to keep yourself safe and how to really know in the beginning what the key factors are as to what an abusive relationship can be, because more times than not, an abusive relationship with an individual usually starts out verbally before it becomes physical. So we had Maureen Casey, who is the head of the Spectrum Intimate Partners Abuse Education class, come, and she talked to all of the women how to keep themselves safe, and if they're feeling that they need safe houses, or we gave them all this information so that it's all anonymous and everything to keep themselves and their children safe.
Now, you had given me a breakdown of the various classes. And it seems that you have a theme for each of your classes, or a subject for each of your classes. Now, you started off by explaining, the first thing is you're going to go through the contract. Would you take us through some of these classes that you?
So the first one, like I just said about the Intimate Partners Abuse Education class, Maureen Casey came. Then we also had Nicole Shattuck, who is a therapist at Advocates. So she came and spoke to us about counseling, how it's, you can get your children in counseling, and how there's always this perception from people that, who needs counseling, and counseling is always a negative thing, but people don't realize how much you can get out of counseling. And Nicole was talking about how she is licensed in play therapy, as they call, for children. So what they do is they have kids play with blocks or color or draw, and it's scientifically proven that if a kid is coloring or playing with something, they're more likely to talk. And they don't realize that it's a therapy session, so it can be very therapeutic for them. And then they also have family therapy. And then Nicole also talked about, in that week, we talked about hygiene. So a lot of things that people don't necessarily think that you need to discuss with adults, sometimes you do, and that it's overlooked because they weren't taught these things when they were younger themselves.
Do you focus on the kids themselves, or just on the mothers? Do you have the kids come into sessions, or no?
So we haven't had the children actually come in. We had all the children come to graduation.
Okay.
We have one mother whose son does want to come talk.
Okay.
In a next class. He didn't want to do it with his mom there, it seemed like she might have gotten a little too upset by it. But
Okay.
To have it from the child's aspect of what it's like when, dealing with a parent who is battling with substance abuse, and the view from the child's perception.
And how old is this child?
He is 16.
16.
16, and his mother has been battling alcohol abuse since he was born.
And I imagine we're talking about a success story of his mother having gone through the program.
Yes.
And he saw the benefit of that, and now he's coming to assist in that regard. So
Yes. Before she was placed on...
created a teacher, so to speak.
Yes. Before she was placed on probation, she didn't even think she was going to make it. She had no idea what she was going to do. Her sobriety was... She didn't have any, and she didn't know where to turn. She to this day thanks Judge Guzman for putting her on alcohol testing. She thinks that it changed her life. And then she said on top of that, just every program that she's tried to do, she's done anger management, she's done the motherhood program, all of these resources, she just says if she just wants more tools. And that's what we explain to the women. You may not get something out of each week. Each week may not target you or what's going on in your life, but all we're trying to give you is more tools for your toolbox to be able to utilize for success for yourself and your children.
And how do you test, or how do you determine that your message is being received and being implemented in their lives?
So because it was our first one, we did it with 4 women. All 4 women were on my caseload. So after it,
Meaning you were the probation officer?
I am their probation officer. So we did it where afterwards, to get feedback to know going forward, it was almost our beta type of one, to make sure that these were the proper topics that they felt could help them going forward. So we almost did a little, it was just feedback from them. So getting some feedback from them, what did and we did this each week too. So we do, say week 1 was introductions, and then the second week, before we started class, we do a pros and cons list with the girls. And we'd say, what did you like about the class? What didn't you like? Or about the speaker. Did you feel that did you like the speaker? Did you think that they gave you proper information? Did you like this topic? What didn't you like? What could be done better next time? So we've gathered all that information to continuously better the program with each topic.
So it's not just a lecture to the person, it's some give and take back and forth.
So there's a lot of conversations going on, and they're very involved in the class. It's not that you're forced to speak, we don't pick on each person, but it's always encouraged to ask questions to the provider that's there that day. So whether they have a question about their specific situation, Judge Guzman came and spoke. We've had CPCS come and speak, but we always let them know, especially when there's an attorney, or if it's the DA's office or it's Judge Guzman, they can't specifically ask specific questions regarding their cases, because some of them are still open, but they can ask situational based things. So they could ask Judge Guzman, if I'm feeling unsafe, what should I do if this happens? But they can't say, what do you think's going on with my case? Those types of things. But they were very receptive to asking her and engaging.
So I see you've broken down your agenda to certain points that from the judge. That's when you have the judge come in.
Yes.
Legal matters attorney. You have an attorney come in from
We had CPCS. So we had 2 CPCS attorneys come in. We had attorney Gabby Robbins and attorney Danielle Feeman. And they talked about CPCS and explaining, because a lot of people are under the impression that when they either have a trial and they're either placed on probation if they're found guilty, or they do a plea and they're placed on probation, that their attorney stays with them. So if they need something going forward and it's a court-appointed attorney, they think they can just go back to that attorney. So it was one of those things of informing them that once your case is
How the process
adjudicated, how the
works.
process works, and what your attorney can do for you, and how CPCS does have all of these other benefits other than just being an attorney.
Now, I see you also have reference to DCF.
Yes.
That's a very ominous three letters.
Yes.
You have DCF come in and talk?
We had 2 DCF workers come in, which I've noticed just based upon going to Lowell as well as here, it's usually the most hostile. The women are already kind of ramped up because they have had DCF in their life. So they always see DCF as the bad guy, as a lot of people see probation, where the bad guy. So going into it, I wanted them to see the other options that there are for DCF. Sometimes asking for help isn't going to get you in trouble. It's going to prevent you from having a care and protection in juvenile court, or it's going to prevent having emergency custody given to DCF.
It shows that you want to do the right thing.
Yes.
And that's really what that's half the battle sometimes, I guess.
Yes, and it was really cool to see their demeanor change throughout the conversation when DCF, the workers came in, because a lot of people just see us behind a desk, or see, the strict, this is my job, this is what I need to do. But when the DCF workers came in and said, the one thing I never want to do is take your child from me. It hurts me to see that they have feelings as well, and to see them as in a different limelight. They know that DCF is only in it for the best interest of the child. The one thing they want, which a lot of people don't hear, is that their main goal is the reunification of a child with their parents.
Okay.
So going into the next week and talking about the pros and cons, one of their pros was that they've never seen DCF in that type of limelight.
Reunification with the child. Is that typically what's at stake in some of these scenarios?
So sometimes some of the women have lost custody. So they have temporarily lost their custody, and the child is in a care and protection case in juvenile court. So they're either in DCF care, or they're in another family member's care, or they're in foster care. So the main goal for them is reunification, and one big step that they can do is take a class like a motherhood class to prove to DCF that they're doing everything possible to get their child back into their custody.
Okay. Now, substance abuse.
Yes.
I see it's one item on here. I imagine it pervades throughout the program, though.
Yes. I think it's usually talked about at least a little bit of the time in each week. However, during that week we had a probation officer. His name is Kevin Sheehan. He's out of Middlesex Probate and Family Court. He actually worked down in Suffolk OCC as a clinician beforehand, and he runs the fatherhood program in Cambridge. He still calls it, he is a recovering addict. He has been sober for 20 years. But he is one that really resonates with a lot of people because he is a probation officer. And people who are on probation may not always think that probation officers are human beings and do have things going on maybe in their life or their family's life. So to have a probation officer come and tell his story about his addiction with drugs and alcohol and what he's done to maintain his sobriety over the 20 years,
certainly puts it into context.
They're very receptive to it, and he talks about how it can still be a daily struggle, and the second that you get complacent is when you're most vulnerable to relapse.
Wow. The fatherhood program.
Yes.
Is that a corresponding program to the motherhood program?
Yes. So one of the big things that the fatherhood program is now moving towards, they have one in Cambridge as well as in Lowell, is that they're trying, as well as us in the motherhood group, we're trying to move away from the stereotypical components of what a mother is supposed to do and what a father is supposed to do. So just the fact that a mother should be the affectionate one, or just that the father is the one that's just to support financially. Both groups are trying to move away from that, and that both parents should be able to financially contribute, and that there should be love and affection from both parents in the right way, as well as proper proper communication skills between a mother and a father, and teaching them that you may not get along with the father or the mother, and you may not like them anymore, but for the child's sake, how to have a healthy relationship with your child's mother or father, and how to properly communicate with them that's safe for the child so that it's not affecting the child in a negative manner.
Do you find that the father and the mother may be in the courses, the respective courses at the same time?
Yes, that happens.
Okay. Is there any move to have the two of them together as a parent?
So they do have parenting classes. I believe they're run from DCF.
Okay.
They do have parenting classes. I think that because a lot of the times we find that the mother and father aren't together anymore, that it's hard to try to get them together.
Sure.
But we do have resources where if we have someone come in and says that they want to do a class together, we can give them those resources.
Okay. What does the graduation day look like?
The graduation day, it's great. So Judge Guzman allowed us to do it in our courtroom. We had it on, I believe it was June 12th. The probation officer who I do the motherhood program with, Marian Burgess from Concord District Court, she's a probation officer. She made this amazing cake with cupcakes, wrote the girls' names on the cupcakes, wrote motherhood graduation, and we had the 5 defining principles of the motherhood program on there. The girls received certificates. Judge Guzman spoke, Judge Brenda Mule spoke, Judge Maida spoke, and Judge Pearson spoke.
Wow,
we had
a lot of judges.
A lot of judges were there that day. Chief Ray Laughlin from Concord District Court came. Okay. We had their friends and family there. Assistant Chief Mary Cubat was there. So it was a great turnaround, and just to see the smiles on their face, just to see how far that they've come, and to have that accomplishment, and to be given something positive when they really haven't had that in their lives. Because most of the time when we get someone on probation, it's one of the lowest points in their life. Sure. They're down and out. They feel like they've hit rock bottom. They don't know what to do. They're sometimes raising the white flag, just wanting to give up. So to see them transition and come out of that and have these smiles on their face was great to see.
Is there anything in place where people can follow up? If a probationer may have some questions afterwards?
So what they're always told is that they have our contact information. The door is always open. If they have issues or questions going forward, they can always come to us and follow up. I know in the past in Lowell, they've had women who have graduated come back and speak and talk about what the program has done for them, where they're at in their life now, and how they've either gotten their child back or what it's done for their family and their relationships with not just their children, but maybe even their parents.
So it sounds like the program is kind of a continuing, evolving program for probation that both sides are learning from and benefiting from.
Yes.
I'd like to be able to go through some of the other programs of probation. Unfortunately, we seem to have reached the end of our time here. But this has been great. I thank you for coming in and telling us about the motherhood program, how it corresponds with the fatherhood program.
Thank you for having me.
It's a good representation of what the probation department offers. So I thank you all for your attention, and I thank Stacy DeVoe for coming in and speaking to us on behalf of probation. This has been Legalese. Thank you. Good night.